I knew sleeping with her was wrong the moment she locked the hotel room door behind us. Not just wrong, catastrophically stupid. She was my former boss's ex-wife. The ex-wife of the man who'd fired me 6 months ago, who'd humiliated me in front of the entire office, who'd made sure I couldn't get another job in the industry. And here I was, in Florence, with her breath hot against my neck, whispering, "We shouldn't do this." "I know," I said. "If Marcus finds out, he won't. He's here. In Florence, he told me yesterday." I froze. "What?" "Business trip. He wants to meet for coffee tomorrow. Talk about the divorce settlement." Her fingers traced my jawline. "So this? This is the stupidest thing I could possibly do. Then why are you doing it?" She smiled, dangerous, reckless. "Because for once in my life, I want to be stupid." Let me back up. Let me tell you how I ended up in a Florentine hotel room with Elena Castellano, 45 years old, recently divorced, and absolutely off limits in every conceivable way. 6 months ago, I was a marketing analyst at Castellano Digital Media in Seattle. 30 years old, decent salary, promising career. Then Marcus Castellano, CEO, my boss, and the kind of man who believed his own press releases, decided I'd made him look bad in a client meeting. Never mind that I'd saved the account. He fired me on the spot, escorted me out by security, and then because apparently destroying my career wasn't enough, he blacklisted me, called his friends at other firms, made sure nobody would touch me. But here's the thing about Marcus I learned too late. He wasn't just cruel. He was terrified. Terrified of being exposed as the fraud he was. Every brilliant idea the company had, stolen from someone else. Every success, built on other people's work while he took credit. He fired me because I'd seen through him. And people like Marcus can't tolerate witnesses. My fiancée left 2 weeks later. Turns out she was more engaged to my salary than to me. So there I was. 30. Unemployed. Single. And living in my sister's basement. Applying to jobs that wouldn't even send rejection emails. My sister finally snapped one day. "You need to leave the country. I can't afford. I'm buying you a ticket. To Italy. You're going to eat pasta, drink wine, and remember you're a human being, not a corporate casualty." So I went to Florence, alone, depressed, planning to spend 2 weeks feeling sorry for myself in a beautiful location instead of an ugly basement. Then I met Elena. I wasn't supposed to recognize her. I'd only seen her twice, once at a company Christmas party 3 years ago, and once in the lobby when she was serving Marcus divorce papers. But I remembered her. How could I forget? While Marcus had droned on about quarterly earnings, she'd stood by the bar looking like she wanted to set the whole party on fire. Elegant, sharp-eyed, with silver-streaked dark hair she wore like a crown. And now she was standing in the Piazza della Signoria, holding a sign that said, "Walking Tour, 9 a.m." My first instinct was to run. This was too weird. Too coincidental. But then, she looked up, and our eyes met, and I saw the exact moment she recognized me. Her expression flickered surprise, then something else. Something I couldn't read. "Ryan Mitchell," she said slowly. "You worked for my husband." "Ex-husband?" I corrected without thinking. "And I worked for the company." Past tense. "Ah." A small, knowing smile. "He fired you." "Good." I blinked. "Good? Marcus only fires people who threaten him. Which means you were probably very good at your job." She tilted her head. "Are you here for my tour?" Yes? Then welcome. Try to keep up." The tour was supposed to be 3 hours. It lasted 5. Elena was nothing like Marcus, where he bulldozed, she invited. Where he lectured, she asked questions. She knew Florence like a lover, every secret corner and hidden story. And she kept looking at me. Not constantly, not obviously, but enough that I noticed. Enough that my skin felt electric every time our eyes met. At the end, as the other tourists dispersed, she approached me. "Coffee?" she asked. "Is that a good idea?" "Probably not," she smiled. "But I spent 15 years married to a man who only did good ideas, and I'm tired of being careful." We went to a tiny cafe she knew, sat across from each other at a marble table barely big enough for 2 espresso cups. The silence stretched, loaded with everything we weren't saying. "Why did he really fire you?" she asked finally. I corrected him in front of a client. He said the campaign would take 3 months. I said 2. That sounds like Marcus. She stirred sugar into her coffee. He cannot tolerate being wrong, especially by someone younger, smarter, more talented. You think I'm talented? I think you terrified him, which is high praise. I laughed despite myself. I'm unemployed and living in my sister's basement. That's not exactly a success story. Yet you're here, in Florence, still standing, still living. Her dark eyes held mine. Marcus tried to break you. Did he succeed? I don't know yet. Then let's find out. She stood, leaving money on the table. Tomorrow. No tour. Just you and me. I'll show you the Florence tourists never see. Elena. It's just sightseeing, Ryan. But the way she said my name made it clear it was anything but. Unless you're afraid. I should have been. I should have said no, thank you. This is obviously a terrible idea. Instead I said, what time? She picked me up at dawn on a Vespa. Black leather jacket, dark jeans, boots, hair tied back with a silk scarf. She looked like trouble dressed in Italian. Hop on, she said. I climbed on behind her, hyper-aware of where to put my hands. She reached back and placed them firmly on her waist. Hold tight. Florence wakes up fast. We rode through empty streets, the city blue and quiet in the pre-dawn light. She drove confidently, leaning into curves, and I held on, feeling the warmth of her through the leather, breathing in her perfume mixed with morning air and gasoline. She took me to a market where vendors were setting up, bought fresh bread, cheese, prosciutto, wine. The wine vendor, an old man with kind eyes, said something in Italian that made Elena laugh. What did he say? I asked as we walked away. That you're too handsome to be my son, so I must be robbing the cradle. My face heated. What did you tell him? That you're my American friend. She glanced at me. I didn't correct the cradle robbing part. We ate breakfast on a hill overlooking the city, watching sunrise paint the Duomo gold and pink. She poured wine into paper cups. Italians drink wine for breakfast? I asked. Italians drink wine whenever they want. She handed me a cup. To freedom from terrible men. I'll drink to that. We ate in comfortable silence, and then she asked, do you hate him? Marcus? I did. For months, I wanted to destroy him. Fantasized about it. Then I realized he'd already destroyed himself. He's 52 years old, rich, powerful, and completely alone. You left him. His kids barely talk to him. He has nothing but money and the fear that someone might realize he's a fraud. You're perceptive. She tore bread into pieces. 3. But I wasn't married to him. No, you were just another person he tried to control and failed. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and something passed between us. He hates that, you know. That he couldn't break you. How do you know he didn't? Because broken men don't fly to Italy. They don't sit on hills drinking wine at dawn with their enemy's ex-wife. They don't look at me the way you're looking at me right now. How am I looking at you? Like I'm not invisible. The air between us felt charged. Dangerous. She was close enough that I could see the pulse at her throat, the tiny lines at the corners of her eyes, the fullness of her mouth. I started to lean in. She stood abruptly. We should go. There's more to see. She took me to the Palazzo Vecchio. Not the tourist parts she knew a way into the private corridors, the hidden rooms where the Medici had conducted their secret business. How do you know about this? I asked as we climbed narrow staircases. I lived here for 20 years. You learn things. We ended up in a small Renaissance room with frescoed walls. She was telling me about Cosimo de' Medici's mistresses when we heard voices loud, American tour group approaching. Come on. She grabbed my hand and pulled me toward a small door. Servants' passage. The passage was narrow, dark. We felt our way along until we found a small elevator, ancient, wrought iron, barely big enough for 2 people. We got in. She pulled the gate closed and hit the button. Nothing happened. Caso, she muttered. What? It's stuck. She pressed the button again. Nothing. This happens sometimes. We just have to wait. We were pressed close in the tiny space. Shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip. I could feel her breathing, slightly elevated. Could smell her perfume. Could feel the heat of her body. This is cozy, I said, trying to lighten the mood. This is karma. She laughed, but it sounded nervous. The universe punishing me for bringing you here? Why would the universe punish you? Because I shouldn't be doing this. Doing what? Showing me Florence? Don't be naive, Ryan. She turned to face me in the darkness. Do I? We're playing with fire. I'm my ex-husband's ex-wife. You're the man he tried to destroy. If he knew we were together? We're not together. We're stuck in an elevator. You know what I mean. I did. And she was right. This was dangerous. But standing there in the dark, so close I could feel her breath on my face, I didn't care. Elena, don't. Her voice cracked. Don't say whatever you're about to say, because I want to hear it too much. The elevator jolted suddenly, started moving. We stumbled, and my hand went to her waist to steady her. For one suspended moment, we stood there, my hand on her waist, her hand on my chest, her face tilted up to mine. The elevator doors opened. She stepped back like I'd burned her. Let's get lunch, she said, not meeting my eyes. She took me to a family restaurant run by her friend Julia. Not on any tourist map. Just locals, real food, and wine that tasted like sunshine in a bottle. Julia, 50-something, loud, warm, hugged Elena and then looked at me with frank appraisal. She said something in rapid Italian. Elena blushed. Actually blushed. What did she say? I asked after Julia left. That you have good shoulders. That's it? She also asked if you're my new lover and said I should stop wasting time and take you to bed already. I nearly choked on my wine. Julia is direct, Elena said, not meeting my eyes. Is she wrong? About which part? Any of it. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw conflict warring in her expression. Come with me. She led me through the kitchen, Julia whistling after us and down stone steps into a wine cellar. Cool, dark, lined with bottles covered in dust and age. This restaurant has been here for 200 years, she said, trailing her fingers along the bottles. Julia's family. Generation after generation. The wine in these bottles is older than both of us combined. Why are we down here, Elena? She turned to face me. Because upstairs, I have to be careful. Down here, I can tell you the truth. Which is, I haven't stopped thinking about you since yesterday. Since the moment I saw you in that piazza and realized you were Ryan Mitchell, the man my husband tried to destroy. Do you know what my first thought was? What? Thank God he failed. She stepped closer. Because you're standing here. Strong. Alive. And looking at me like I'm not a 45-year-old divorcee with baggage and a vindictive ex-husband. You look at me like I'm beautiful, I said. Fascinating. Dangerous. Dangerous? Because I want to kiss you so badly I can barely think straight, and I know it's the worst idea either of us has ever had. She closed her eyes. It is. Marcus is here. In Florence. If he saw us together, then we'll be careful. Ryan, tell me you don't feel this. I stepped closer. Not touching, but close. So close. Tell me I'm imagining it, and I'll walk away right now. She opened her eyes. They were bright, almost desperate. I can't. Because I do feel it. And it terrifies me. Footsteps on the stairs. Julia's voice calling out in Italian. Elena stepped back, the moment shattered. We should go. But as we climbed the stairs, her hand brushed mine, and her fingers lingered just a second too long. That evening, we were walking along the Arno when the sky opened up. Not rain a deluge. We ran, laughing, and ducked into a covered archway, pressed against the wall as the rain pounded down. We were soaked. Her white shirt was translucent, clinging to her skin. Her hair had come loose from its tie, wet and wild around her face. She was laughing, and she looked 25, and I couldn't breathe. This is your fault, she said. Your bad luck. I'm bad luck? You're the one who brought us this way, to show you the sunset. Some sunset. We were still laughing, and then suddenly we weren't. Because the laughter faded, and we were standing there, drenched and close, and the air between us crackled with everything we weren't saying. Ryan, she whispered. Yeah? We should. That's when I saw him. Marcus Castellano, walking toward us under an umbrella, not 50 feet away, talking on his phone. Shit, I breathed. Elena saw him too. Her face went white. He can't see us together. Without thinking, I pulled her deeper into the archway, into the shadows. Pressed her against the wall, my body shielding hers. We were so close, I could feel her heart hammering against my chest. Marcus walked past, didn't look our way, kept walking, but we didn't move. We stood there, frozen, her back against stone, my hands on her waist, her hands gripping my shoulders. Rain pouring down 3 feet away. The danger of discovery fading, but neither of us pulling away. He's gone, she whispered. I know. We should move. I know. But we didn't. We stood there, staring at each other, breathing hard, and I watched her internal war play out on her face. Then she made her decision. My apartment is 2 blocks from here, she said. Come with me. Her apartment was small, perfect. Books everywhere. Plants. Art on every wall. A terrace overlooking terracotta roofs. It smelled like her perfume and coffee and old paper. We stood dripping in her entryway. I'll get towels, she said. Elena. She turned. We were 5 feet apart. Might as well have been miles. If we do this, she said quietly, there's no going back. Marcus will find out eventually. He always does. And he'll make our lives hell. I don't care. You should. He destroyed your career once. He'll do it again. Let him. I'm tired of being afraid of him. Ryan, tell me you don't want this. I stepped closer. Look me in the eye and tell me you want me to leave. She opened her mouth, closed it, and then, in a voice barely above a whisper, I can't. I closed the distance between us, cupped her face in my hands, gave her one last chance to pull away. She didn't. She kissed me, and it wasn't soft or tentative. It was 15 years of loneliness and 6 months of rage and 3 days of denial, all combusting at once. Her hands fisted in my wet shirt, mine tangled in her wet hair. She tasted like rain and wine and terrible decisions, and I didn't care, didn't care, didn't care. We broke apart, both breathing hard. Bedroom? I managed. End of the hall. We barely made it. I woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of coffee. Elena's apartment. Elena's bed. Elena. I found her on the terrace, wearing my shirt, drinking espresso, staring out at the city. She looked soft in the morning light. Young. Happy. Hey, I said. She turned and smiled. Hey yourself. I moved behind her, wrapped my arms around her waist. She leaned back against me. Regrets? I asked quietly. So many. She set down her coffee. Then what? That I can't keep you. She turned in my arms. You leave in 4 days. I live here. Even if Marcus wasn't a factor, the geography is impossible. What if I stayed? Don't. Her voice broke. Don't make promises we both know you can't keep. What if I mean it? You don't. Not really. Right now, you're in Florence, in my bed, and everything feels possible. But in 3 months, when you're back in Seattle, unemployed, living in your sister's basement, you'll resent me. You'll regret this. Elena. Her phone buzzed. She looked at it and went pale. What? Marcus. He wants to meet for coffee. In an hour? My stomach dropped. Are you going? I have to. Divorce settlement. Lawyers. It's necessary. I'll come with you. Absolutely not. Elena. Ryan. She gripped my arms. If he sees us together, he'll know, and he'll destroy you. Again. Worse this time. I can't. I won't let that happen. So, what are you saying? She closed her eyes. That maybe this was a mistake? A beautiful mistake, but don't. I pulled her close. Don't do that. Don't rewrite last night because you're scared. I am scared. He's vindictive and powerful, and he will hurt you if he knows. Then we'll be careful. For how long? You leave in 4 days. Then I'll come back. Ryan. Or you come to Seattle. And do what? I have a business here. A life. So we'll figure it out. How? She was crying now. How do we make this work? You're 30. Your ex-boss is my ex-husband who wants to destroy you. How is this anything but doomed? I didn't have an answer. An hour later, I followed her. I know, stupid, dangerous, but I couldn't let her face Marcus alone. I sat at a cafe across the street, watching through the window as she met him. Marcus looked exactly the same expensive suit, cold eyes, that smile that never reached above his mouth. I watched them talk, watched Marcus slide papers across the table, watched Elena sign them. Then I watched Marcus lean across the table and say something that made Elena go rigid. He pulled out his phone, showed her something. Her face went white. My blood went cold. He'd found out. Somehow, he'd found out. I watched her shake her head. Watched Marcus smile, but this smile was different. Not triumphant. Almost sad. Like he'd expected this. Been waiting for it. And hated being right. Watched him stand, lean down, whisper something in her ear. She looked like she was going to be sick. I didn't think. I just moved. I walked into that cafe, walked right up to their table, and said, "Is there a problem here?" Marcus looked up. For 1 second, there was genuine surprise. Then his expression shifted not to triumph, but to something closer to resignation. Disappointment. Maybe. Ryan Mitchell. He sat back down. I was just telling Elena how I received the most interesting photographs this morning from a business associate who happened to be in Florence. He slid his phone across the table. The photo was grainy but clear enough Elena and me in that archway, pressed close together. Marcus, Elena started. You know what's funny? Marcus interrupted, not looking at either of us. I've spent 6 months trying to figure out why you mattered, Mitchell. Why firing you didn't feel like winning? And sitting here, watching my ex-wife look at you the way she never looked at me. He paused. I finally understand. You see, people, I only ever saw assets. What do you want? I asked. What do I want? He laughed, but there was no joy in it. I want to not be the villain in this story. But we don't always get what we want. He stood, straightening his jacket. I could ruin you both. The Seattle Times would love this story. Your future employers, Elena's business reputation, all of it. My stomach dropped. But here's the thing, Marcus continued quietly. I've already lost my marriage. My kids barely speak to me. I fire good employees because I'm threatened by them, and blacklist them because I'm petty. You want to know what keeps me up at night? It's not business. It's knowing that people like you, two people who actually see each other, who take stupid risks for connection, are living lives I'll never have. He turned to Elena. The divorce papers are signed. You'll have your settlement in 2 weeks. No delays. No games. Then to me. And you? I'm going to make some calls. Not to destroy you. To fix what I broke. I can't undo firing you. But I can stop poisoning your future. Why? I asked. Because I'm tired of being the man I've become. He picked up his phone, deleted the photo, and showed us the blank screen. And because maybe, just once, I can do something that isn't about control. He walked toward the door, then stopped. Take care of her, Mitchell. She deserves someone who actually sees her. And then he was gone. Elena and I sat in stunned silence. Did that just happen? I finally asked. I think. Elena's voice was shaky. I think Marcus Castellano just gave us his blessing. Or had a mental breakdown. Maybe both. We started laughing. Not because it was funny, exactly, but because the alternative was crying, and we'd done enough of that. So, I said, what now? She looked at me across that tiny cafe table, tears and laughter mixing on her face. Now? We figure it out. The geography. The age difference. All of it. Together. Together. The flight back to Seattle was the longest 7 days of my life. I spent the first 3 sitting in my sister's basement, staring at job application websites, feeling the weight of everything that had happened, pressed down on me like physical force. Marcus had said he'd make calls. Did he mean it? Or was that just another manipulation? One final twist of the knife. On day 4, I got an email. Subject line, Employment Opportunity. Referred by Marcus Castellano. I stared at it for 10 minutes before opening it. It was from a competitor firm. Senior position. Good salary. They wanted an interview. Over the next 2 days, 3 more emails arrived. All similar, all mentioning Marcus's recommendation. He'd actually done it. On day 6, I called my lawyer friend again. I need to know my options. For what? Wrongful termination. 6 months ago. I know it's late, but tell me everything. So I did. The firing, the blacklisting, the threatening emails Marcus had sent afterward. Stay away from my industry, Mitchell. You're finished. My friend was quiet for a long moment. You've got a case. Those emails are evidence of retaliation. Blacklisting is illegal. We can file. Even if he's trying to make amends now? Trying to make amends doesn't undo breaking the law. The question is, what do you want? What did I want? I thought about Marcus in that cafe. The resignation in his eyes. The admission that he'd already lost everything that mattered. I thought about Elena, waiting in Florence, her life on hold, while I figured out mine. I thought about the man I wanted to be, the life I wanted to live. I want accountability, I said, not revenge. I want him to admit what he did was wrong, officially, and I want enough money to start over. Not millions, just enough to make a choice without fear. I can work with that. The lawsuit took 2 months to settle. Marcus's lawyers tried to fight it, but the evidence was overwhelming. In the end, we settled for a formal admission of wrongful termination, a sealed financial agreement, and a non-disparagement clause that went both ways. The amount wasn't life-changing money, but it was freedom money, enough to live on for a year, maybe 2 if I was careful, enough to take a risk. During those 2 months, Elena and I talked every day, video calls at strange hours because of the time difference, making each other dinner over the phone, her teaching me to make real carbonara, me teaching her to make decent coffee. We talked about fear and hope and whether geography could really defeat 2 people who refused to give up on each other. "Come back," she said one night. "I will. I just need to finish this first." Then what? Then we figure it out. Together, like you said. When the settlement check finally cleared, I booked a one-way ticket to Florence. I'm writing this from Elena's terrace. It's been 3 months since I arrived with a suitcase and a half-formed plan. I'm learning Italian badly. I've picked up freelance marketing work with Italian companies. Elena's been teaching me about Florence, about building a life in a place where you don't speak the language and everything is unfamiliar. Is it easy? No. Do I miss Seattle sometimes? Yes. Do we fight about stupid things like whose turn it is to buy groceries when neither of us is fluent in the other's domestic language? Constantly. But here's what I learned. Love isn't about perfect circumstances. It's about choosing someone every day, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Marcus tried to break both of us. And in a weird way, he gave us each other, not intentionally, I don't think he's that evolved. But by being the villain in both our stories, he gave us a common enemy. And by finally letting go, he gave us permission to stop looking over our shoulders. I ran into him once, actually. Video call with Elena's business partner who was in Seattle. Marcus walked past in the background. We were using a co-working space. Apparently the same one he frequents. He saw me on the screen. We made eye contact for maybe 2 seconds. He nodded. Just once. Not friendly, not apologetic. Just acknowledgement. I nodded back. And that was it. No confrontation. No drama. Just 2 people who destroyed and rebuilt each other, moving forward in parallel lives that would probably never intersect again. I think that's what closure actually looks like. Not forgiveness, necessarily. Just the end of the story. Elena's calling me to bed. She wants to show me something not in the guidebook, she says, with that smile that still makes my heart stop. Turns out the most beautiful places really aren't in any guidebook. They're in the risk. In the leap. In the moment you stop letting fear make your choices. They're in choosing someone who sees you, even when that choice is complicated and expensive and requires learning a new language at 30 years old. They're in her, and I'm done running from that.